So that's why. Um,
Hopefully, I
yeah,
don't forget it
so,
next week. Hopefully, I don't forget it next week.
well, I automatically, oh, yeah, at the end of this, let's make
To
sure
hit.
of that. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Well, welcome. And we are going to get started. I'm so happy to see you guys here tonight. And we have, I will say, a full agenda, but not quite as full as last week. Last week we run over by 45 minutes or something, so I don't think it'll be that hardcore, but we will see. So, we're starting out tonight with a little bit of a review of where you guys are, how things have been going, um, and just kind of getting a vibe because tonight, like right now, is the halfway point, and just want to see how you're doing. So, okay, so tonight we're going to go through the review, then we're going to talk about voter access. And if you were able to join us in person, we had Brandon Snyder, who's a longtime friend of Everett's of the disability community, speak to us. But we're going to talk more about what does it mean for all of you helping other individuals with disabilities or election offices be able to provide or know what accommodations are available. You'll also see that next week we will be talking about voter education, but you will be with just Everett and Iota. I will be away. I'm going to provide a video for you guys so you don't miss me too much. But you will be well led by Iota and Everett. So last week, this was your goal. Candidates will know more about disability related issues and how they can address um, and trail and how to make their campaigns more accessible. Now, some of this, like making their campaigns more accessible, will not officially happen until the second lunch and learn, which is next week. But nonetheless, providing information about those two trainings. On that email, there is also a link to share with the info sheets that I want to touch on tonight. But that was huge, everyone. The fact that we are turning the tables, let's say, on previous trail work and a lot of disability advocacy work where we are hearing from candidates, we're learning from them, and all of a sudden we're turning the page and saying, now it's our time to share our expertise and knowledge with you. That is a big shift. Um, and some I know take that well, and some don't. And that's okay. It's just about making sure that we make ourselves available to provide that expert viewpoint as people with disabilities. So
Well,
the
and and and,
objectives. Oh
and
yeah,
I know we don't have the final numbers, Josie, on registrations, but
correct.
it's a healthy number, and
Hmm.
so um, I would say more than 25 we're at right now, and so and we still have a few more days, so who
Yeah.
knows? And we have to
Yes.
realize we're in the throes of an election,
Yep.
so the fact that people are taking time out of their day to get 20-minute, 30-minute info from us, to me speaks loudly.
Yes. That's absolutely right, Ed. So, as of like 2 p.m. today, 33 candidates had signed up to attend our lunch and learns. Um, I always try to put my bar higher and higher. I would love to see 50, but as Everett said, what you all just did by getting 33 signed up is huge. The fact that they are recognizing our expertise and recognizing that they need to learn is phenomenal, guys. So kudos to all of you. Um, okay. So I wanted to know from um from all of you or any of you, was there anything that you learned during this last week's activity and work, whether that be the methods of contacting or anything from the people you connected with?
Yeah, did anybody get any replies or calls back or anything like that?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to shout out to I think Anthony's finally on the call. I know him and his mom are on Lisa are on the same internet, so if one of them has trouble getting in, they both do.
Okay.
I think they're finally here. Anthony literally between Sunday and Monday spent like 6 hours on the computer with me trying to explain and walk me through the mail merge thing.
Cool.
I tried to do it on my own and it was a miserable failure. And you know, and I think, you know, what that made me realize on a personal level is, first of all, it takes a team.
Yeah.
And second of all, even though I'm really, I don't know if I'm the oldest person here, but probably, you really need to never stop learning or being willing to learn. Because I feel like whatever the rest of my life is, I'm going to spend it advocating for myself and others, either incidentally or on purpose. So this is really, really important. Like Trail has taken me to a new level of systemic advocacy skill that I never thought I would, you know, get to. Like I didn't think I was capable of any more personal growth. Melanie spent 4 hours on with me yesterday. Like we weren't talking about Trail the whole time, but like in case Anthony's instructions to me didn't pan out, and you would hope after 6 hours that they would, that she was going to show me kind of like the quick and dirty version.
Yeah.
And oh, Lisa decided to point out to me by text just now that no matter how old I am, she'll always be a couple of years older. So, anyway, just the amount of like, and most of you guys are individuals. We are a group of 8 here, and it takes a contribution from every single person in order for us to like after all that instruction that I sent out. I don't even know, like I'm almost like embarrassed to tell you, I sent out an email to every single one of the people on that spreadsheet, and I sent out personalized ones. So I kind of feel like maybe I did it wrong, but dang it, Anthony showed me how to use that mail merge. I finally got it, and I was gonna use the hell out of it. Right now, I live in the Southeast anyway, so I would have still had the majority of people on my sheet. But yeah, remember what you said. You don't care if they're inundated with people from.
Right. That's right.
And so,
well, and we just and not everybody was on for this, but we just talked about in preparing for the lunch and learn about helping candidates see the faces and names that make up this group they've heard about.
Yeah.
Right. And that there's people that are behind this, and there's momentum, and there's years of work that has gone into making this a thing. And so I'm excited that they got inundated because they know that it's real. Yeah. Right. And
that's
that we're
right.
Really on things.
You're right, Ed. Like
together.
I don't care if they got a separate email from all of us. That means that they realize there are 40 people with disabilities across the state of Pennsylvania who care what they do, and are willing to provide input, and that's cool.
Well, and the other reality is that as much as we love our community, it is a small community, right? So if we don't know the people, we probably know someone in this group that knows that person.
Yeah.
And so we're literally probably covering a lot of Pennsylvanians with disabilities with the work that we're doing and what we're about to do this week I think is really going to be powerful in terms of our ability to use our social media to make people aware of voter access things. Not to segue, Josie, but I feel like that was a pretty good one. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
do have like a
Pat
comment
on your
about.
shoulder.
I have two more things. One is somebody did email me back, and one when I called somebody, they said, "Oh, I've heard of Trail." That was a really exciting
Who
moment.
was that?
I don't remember, but I can tell you it was one of four people.
Oh, I want to know. Oh, so
There you go. There
that
you
is
go.
something I'm
Well,
so intrigued about. Is like, who knows and how? And I mean, we don't need to dig, but I'm very curious. So
well,
thank
I don't know
you
what
for
you count on your back about the video that you made for next week, Josie, but we did have people, I would say candidates that we have not been able to reach in person often. Nyota has tried her butt off to
that. Yes.
get people here, get people connected. But there have been people that did not previously give feedback on paid family medical leave that now have because of the outreach, I think.
Yes.
And they understand the importance of it now based on where we are in the election and politically. And so we're making I can't express how much impact we're making. I had to remind Josie of that today when we were talking about all this stuff. I was like, don't forget how much work we put in. If you think back to the beginning of all of this, it was Ali Rassock, myself, and Josie. Ali now has a little baby and is still watching Trail from the background, cheering it on as it moves and keeps going. And it's been amazing to watch it grow. So don't ever forget that part as we keep moving through this. Because we're not
so
done.
even if you're sending, let's say, 5 emails, I don't know how many you guys sent, but those are 5 individuals that maybe would have never heard about disability advocacy from people with disabilities. And so that is so huge. And all of those candidates, are on that spreadsheet. Now, there were a few that, number one, some of you found better email addresses for, and I'm so grateful for that. Some of you couldn't find their info and had to really dig through the internet to find anything about them. And I appreciate all of that work. And if there's things we can do to help, let us know. But you guys are doing phenomenal. And some of you may not hear back from any candidate that you emailed, and that's really normal. If you hear back, that's odd, but wonderful. So don't ever feel like you're doing it in vain, because a lot of them just will either delete or they'll read it and never reply. So, you're doing good things. Melanie, you had your hand up.
Oh, good. I'm not muted. Okay. Jesse Bradica replied back to me.
Okay.
And also Dan Frankel's email and a friend of Gina Curry said that it's not, like, I got it resent back to me saying, hey, this is not a good email address.
Laura got one. Yes.
Sorry, I can't turn my camera on. Me too. I think the email that works was something like elect Dan Frankel. The email, the one that we had was for his office, and we called them and said it didn't work, and then she was gonna get back, and then she was gonna talk to somebody and get back to us.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we found, or I shouldn't be saying we, I and the person helping me, I'm used to nothing about us without us. So sorry. But anyway, I think the email is something like elect Dan Frankel at, I think it should be I think it's a Gmail or a Yahoo.
Yeah.
It's info
Laura, if
at
you can forward that.
electdanfrankel.com.
Is that what it is? Okay. So if you guys find the right addresses or that ones are wrong, let me know. I've been updating the sheets. I've been letting the Family Care Act know. Because those candidate email addresses are often ones that if they're elected once, they'll use that candidate email address every time they're running for that office. And so, some of them do get like closed, like evidently Dan Frankel's, but some of them they use for decades.
Forever. Right.
Yeah.
Forever. Yeah.
And you know what, Josie, I'm glad you all brought that up because I'm always out and about. As I'm meeting some of these people and their managers and our different relatives, I'm going to continuously collect that information. So I apologize if I'm not always uploading it. But if you all run into, like Josie said, or Everett, a problem, because this election, people have been very evasive. And that's what I was going to say before we went this road, but this kind of brings it to another point of why it's been so hard. So any traction that we've made to your point, Everett, has been monumental, because like I said, I didn't share with you all, I actually went on my own personal time to an event for a candidate, and I got a chance to talk to people and ask, hey, what are you doing here? What are your interests? And I did mention trail, and instantly there was name recognition there. So that right there, that right there with a group of politicians from different levels, local, state, and other philanthropic people, for that group to know who we are individually and to have heard of us and want to learn more about us. That right there was very encouraging for me. And I'm sorry I didn't bring that back to the group sooner. So please don't think that any of your individual work is going overlooked just because these people are in a race.
November 1st.
Literally what you have to see it is they have blinders on. So only the shiniest, loudest objects at this point are going to get attention. So to know that we're out there getting that attention during such a chaotic time, that made me feel really good about what we're doing. So I'm sorry I didn't bring that forward before.
Oh, thank you. And that just makes my heart really happy. Like,
and that was just like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Because I'm a policy nerd, guys. And so like that makes like my heart flutter. Like, it's like when you're in school and they're like, that guy likes you, right? Yeah, it's like that. But only for policy nerds. That's the only person that does that. But that's so exciting. Thank you, Naoda, for sharing that. Okay, so moving forward. Before we jump into voter access, were there any final questions or comments?
It looks like Christine might have one.
Oh, yes, Christine.
Hello.
Unless your hand's just up. Go ahead.
Okay. So I guess it was kind of answered, but it's normal not to get anything back because I've sent a couple like mass emails, like over 100, and I haven't got one response from anybody, so that's normal to not get any responses.
Yeah, it is. Somebody reads them, but very rarely will you get a response. So you did it right.
And to be honest with you, Josie, I would doubt, depending upon what's going on and whose campaign it is, Christine, if I can interject, that someone is really taking the time. They go into a folder probably, and then on the pile of priority. That's why I wanted to reiterate what I had just said. Then when they have the downtime, but right now we're in less than 50 something days, I think was the last countdown somebody sent me. So once again, the shiniest, loudest object gets the noise. So please, even though you're not individually being contacted. I just told you I was at a political event and they knew who we were. So that means that, yes, so that does mean that what we're doing is picking up traction. But imagine if you're being flooded with thousands upon communications about a variety of issues. If you know that you've already hit that group, you're going to think about, okay, I'll get to Christine when I've already hit my sweet spot and I've won. And I'm going to come and tell her, thank you for those 100 and something emails. And maybe that's the time for you seriously to remind that person that, hey, look, because when they go clean up their stuff, because remember, I've managed the campaign, so I'm telling you what happens. When we go back through and we start cleaning up the communications and organizing everything and doing that time of auditing, so to speak, that's when they start counting super voters, volunteers, who came to phone bank, who brought lunches. And that's really how the traction picks up with those phone calls of people saying, hey, look, would you please help me do X, Y, and Z? Because I remember you did blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling you what happened to me personally.
Okay.
You're doing good, Christine.
I just want to
I
make
hope
sure
that encourages you.
this stuff was going through. That's what I figured. I just wanted to make sure I was doing it right, not doing something wrong.
No,
Like
you were
Well,
right.
well, and I know that I've been hammering this home every time we get on one of these trainings or one of these conversations, but I know that we're working on voter access and candidate education, but we have to be thinking about what happens when this election cycle is over. Okay. People will know who we are once they are in office. So like Naida just said, if they're not responding now, they will once they're in. And that's going to mean influence and conversations hopefully will be coming to trail after that. I even asked Josie that today. I was like, so we do this and we have all this momentum. Like, then where does it go? What do we do then? And I don't know if we know the answer yet. No. We have to start thinking that way about our personal connections we're making.
Right. And so let me give you one more like little tidbit. So this is not demonstrating my intelligence. Okay, and I told Everett and Iota this earlier in the week when we were prepping for tonight. But I wanted to let you know that when I was preparing to share all those slides with you last week about mail merge, I wanted to show you step by step how to do it. So I wrote this silly little message in Word that said, "You're fantastic. Sincerely, Josie." I put a little mail merge salutation and name. And then, and then I took pictures and all that stuff. Well, didn't I get responses to the email that I didn't know I sent? Saying, "Oh, thank you for thinking I'm awesome. Who are you?" And so the fact that now I felt like an absolute fool, but here's the moral of the story. 2 people who I didn't know replied to those emails because I said encouraging words. Literally, they said, one of them, who I don't know, said, "Thank you so much. Sometimes I get discouraged about, running, and that's just the type of support I needed to hear." Now, I didn't tell her that it was an accident, but I looked today and that woman, her name's Denise, signed up for the Lunch and Learns. So
it's cool.
It is cool. So just recognize that, sometimes just sending words of encouragement will get them to read your email and they'll stick in your mind. Okay? Not saying to screw up mail merge and send a ridiculous email to like 100 people, but
Melanie asked when the next election is, Josie. Melanie
another big one will be in 2 years. There will be some like local elections next year, and Nyota is actually probably the expert on this.
And I was just about to jump in there and say, every election is important, and that's something I want to stress. I won't bring over any little phrases from any of my other affiliates and groups, but please understand, I can't say it anymore, and I think we're all saying it in a different way. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, and I'm being approached. Josie's being approached. All of us are being approached now, and it's no secret, excuse me, what Trail is and who we are. So we need to be thinking about that elevation. How do we now affect judges? Who, how deep do we really want to go? Because these are people who also make a lot of important decisions that impact us every single day. And don't even get me going about conditions, just like on a local level in our individual areas. So I think there's no room that we can't touch as long as we keep on forging ahead. So keep in mind, every election and every connection is important. It definitely is.
So my last words, I love little dogs that make me laugh.
Sorry.
Casper. So my
Casey.
last words on this is, please, especially if you've had any connection, like replies, follow up with them, let them know about the Lunch and Learn, let them know about the info sheets. If they're legislators or candidates you personally know, use whatever means you need. I reached out to like 10 of them on Facebook and got folks through there. And so sometimes it's text messages, Facebook, Twitter. We haven't really used Twitter, but we should be. So use the means in the tools in your toolbox. Okay, so I'm going to move on because we still have stuff to cover. But thank you all for everything you're doing. Okay, so voter access. So voter access, if you that were there during our in-person event, the beginning of September, we talked about the importance of, yes, getting people to the polls. That's important, but if they don't know that there's access, if they don't feel like they have support, they're not going to vote. So 62% of people with disabilities voted in 2020. And as Everett said, that is a huge jump in the number of individuals with disabilities who voted in previous elections. And also on this chart, notice that there's significantly more people with disabilities who voted by mail than people who don't have disabilities. And so there, we know that there's a lot of pushback on voting by mail, whether they believe it's fraud and yes, voter fraud happens at the polls or by mail. It's not as large of a problem as, some sources may say, but it is something to be aware of and recognize it's a concern that we should be aware of. But it's really important to note that the more accessible way to vote for a majority of people with disabilities seems to be via mail-in ballots. And so as we talk tonight about voter access, that is one area that we are going to be talking about. So here are dates that we need you to kind of keep in mind. Now you'll have these slides, but October 24th, which is only a couple weeks away, is the last day to register to vote. Okay, you can do it online, but that is the last date. And so if it's people with disabilities that you know on Facebook, listservs, reminding them to make sure that they're registered is really important. Then by November 1st, a month away, they have to request a ballot online if they want to vote by mail. I will show you where and how to request a ballot so that you can share that information as well. But that is the deadline. And then November 8th is actually the deadline for both voting at the polls and returning the ballots via mail. And if they are not postmarked, if you don't vote in person that day, then vote doesn't count.
That is the only way that it will not, is if it is not postmarked the
Yeah.
proper date. So if you're late, sorry.
So voting by mail. The blue top bullet, register to vote. Okay. That is a link directly to Pennsylvania's register to vote website. You probably also know that through paperwork such as papers that you get for services through waivers and centers for independent living, there's often paperwork in there as well, but probably the fastest is through the website. Then here is the link to request a mail-in ballot. And here's why I want to tell you about this. And some of you brought this up when we were in person at the beginning of September. On the request, it asks you whether you are requesting one because you will not be in the district to vote or whether you have a disability. If the individual marks that they are just not going to be in the district, that's the only question. And they can fill it out, submit it, no other questions. If they mark that they have an illness or a disability, it requires them to put in information about their doctor, their disability. Number one, that irritates the heck out of me. But number two, it's a pain in the butt. So unless that individual just happens to know the phone number and address of their doctor and feels they're typing it in, I would encourage you to just have them choose that they're not going to be in the region or district to vote, just to save the hassle. That's all. Now, the other option is for them to mark that they have a permanent disability, and then that paperwork's always taken care of. But that's something that they can do anytime. But for requesting mail-in ballot, go to this link here, and then have them fill it out. But the easier way is to say that they just won't be available in the district to vote. And then they have to have that ballot picked up by the mail person by November 8th. So really, I would honestly say you should try to encourage them to have it in their mailboxes no later than like the 6th of November for it to truly count. So voting in person. Some people really prefer voting in person, or they may not have had time to send everything in. So the first bullet is a link to find their physical voting place. And so they can just type their address in and find it. The next link is a link that helps them find if their polling place is accessible. So what they would do with that second bullet, and they can actually skip the first one if they need to know about accessibility, but that second bullet point, they can go there. They can type in their address and it will pop up what their polling place is and its accessibility or lack thereof. And so it'll talk a little bit about, it'll show you the wheelchair accessible sign, and then there are criteria that polling place has to have to be able to have that marker. It includes accessible doors. It includes sidewalks and parking spots. And so, that part is really important for them to know is there and that they can check on instead of being worried about it before going and voting or deciding not to go to vote on the day of. And then, as Brandon mentioned, if they cannot be at their particular polling place on November 8th, they can ask for a provisional ballot and they can fill that out from any of the polling places and somebody can sign it. And so they can do it no matter where they are at other polling places.
There's been a couple
please, Zach, go ahead.
things in the chat. Monica mentioned that her polling place is accessible, but it says that it's not on that webpage. that is one thing that I mean, I know web pages are great and they keep them updated and everything, but I would honestly try to go to where your polling place is going to be and look at
Sure.
it if you have the ability to do so. Go visit, figure it out. Go see for yourself what works for you. The other question is, are we going to get a copy of these slides?
Of course.
And the answer is yes. We definitely want you to be using this if you're communicating with people that have questions about voting and getting them connected.
And if you haven't noticed or something happened, you didn't get the emails, every follow-up that I send you, which is either sent immediately after the training or the following day, the slides and the video are always attached to those, plus any additional information. So yes, these slides, I put some of my heart and soul and sweat and tears into them, so please use them. This right here talks about what voting accessibility looks like, and what are the options. I was just going to share that
And
page.
I believe that Brandon actually brought this page up a little bit, just briefly in Harrisburg,
Yeah.
just to show you that there is a dedicated page to kind of answer Melanie's question, like what they identify as accessible and what they mean. And Josie got talked about it already, but I think there is a level of commitment in our state to make sure this is done as effectively as possible, even though we all know we can run into issues at that time.
Yeah. So
Marty looked
I-
like she was raising her hand also.
oh, Marty.
Thanks, Mel.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. I just wanted to let people know, I saw the question about how do they decide about what's accessible and what's not. The ADA guidebook is what's used. And if anybody gets to a polling place and has some issues, every county has a board of election, and that's who you go to. You call the Board of Elections and you say, the website said that this place was accessible. However, there were 4 steps and that wasn't very helpful to me. And so they will be on it, believe me, or call your cell. And it's definitely worth something advocating for and about. Anyhow,
Well,
that's just my 2
This
cents.
covers the
And-
obscure accessibility stuff, right?
Right, the ADA, it's extremely specific. How many inches, how long, and we measure in seconds, minutes and seconds, how long it takes a door to close, how we measure everything from the height of the sink from the bathroom floor to the turnaround radius and a bathroom stall to you name it. It's extremely specific.
See,
what the
everything that you
are.
said though is mostly solely related to just wheelchair accessibility.
So
and
let
more
me show
mobility.
you what this means. So for this one, so you guys are all gonna know my address. Hold on one second.
Well, and as you're pulling that up, Josie, just know that
Please send me
Dominique
gifts. What?
Dominique mentioned that your polling place can change,
That's
especially in urban areas. So make sure you know where that is. I think Anthony put in the link for requesting a mail-in ballot. But again, go ahead, Josie. I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. So part of this will just show you voter accessibility, very, very broad information. However, and I think it's on another slide, it will also tell you what it means for a polling place to be accessible. So it has a full checklist to find out if what it means to be accessible. And Melanie, to your point, there is more to it. I'm sorry. that I can't pull it up this very second. But when you go to find out if your polling place is accessible, there is also a way to say, like, here's what that means, because you're right, it's not the same for everyone at all. So I'm gonna reshare.
As we all know, all the laws that have guidelines and standards never maybe that's a very fun statement to say on a live stream, but very rarely will cover everybody who needs support. Right. And so that's part of the reality of doing this access work. I see it at the college that I work at all the time, where people are like, but ADA compliance is not enough. Right. I need more than what compliance means. And so, and I don't want to speak for Marty, but I think what we're trying to say is that they do have very strict guidelines that they will follow, and it will be hard for them to go beyond those because they're following what is said to be followed, and that's that in most cases. But I don't want to speak for Marty and but
let's also say that most entities meet the law because it's a law, but don't necessarily go above and beyond. Nor do they necessarily know what would be beneficial.
Correct.
So part of all of this is to encourage mail-in voting when that's possible. Just to avoid that stuff. Number two, however, is there is an issue that I've not figured out the answer to, and that is the whole signature situation, in particular for mail-in ballots.
You know what, Josie? I did ask Brandon that. I don't know if he had an answer.
I
don't. Let me see if I can get you an answer before you send the follow-up.
Okay.
Because I bet he would have an answer, but I know that he was looking into that. So I don't know if I will ask him again.
My biggest concern, and I think we talked about it very briefly at the in-person event at the beginning of September, was, for some of us, having the same signature multiple times just won't happen. And if you're voting in person, they can, some of them you don't have to sign, some things that they can have like a witness sign. But the mail-in ballots, I'm not really sure how that would work, and I'm concerned of whether they would throw them out. And so I'm trying to find, Everett's trying to find the real answer to that, so stay tuned. But here is the complaint link. Obviously, we want to avoid complaints because we want the issue to be addressed before people go in to vote, but there's always the chance that something won't work. So moving into your mission for this week, voter access. The goal is to ensure that voters know what is available to make voting more accessible. So the big main objective or task that we're asking you to do is to post or share posts. Share posts, not necessarily posts, although that's what it is. About voting accessibility with your friends through listservs, so those email chains, to election staff, volunteers, any of that. We want voter access to be all over the Pennsylvania social media and listservs. The other additional task or mission you could do, if you have time, is to reach out to your county's election office and share the accessibility sheets that I will be attaching to the follow-up email. You might want to ask them about their accessibility in the county. But if you reach out to your county, I will give you an additional $5 to either email or call them with additional information.
So, and I guess the other thing to know and about doing that is that the judges of election and all of that, they get training packets that
Mhm.
are mandated by the state of Pennsylvania. So the information that I got is that you can present that sheet to them. They may or may not do anything with that. They may just say, thank you very much for the info. I appreciate it. And the other thing that you could do in theory is go to your polling place on election day and you see someone that is openly a person with a disability who wants to vote. You could share that information with them as they walk in the door. And in theory, you could pass it out in the building, but Brandon did say if you're going to do any passing out, to stay some distance away from the building and do it that way, do it outside, just like somebody else would, just to be safe. But he did say when you share his sheet, he did that for us as a loving favor to Trail and the movement, I think. And so, but he did also encourage Nyota, Josie, and I to reach out to people in the future to see if we can get into what they do receive as their official packets and info. Right. And so they may or may not do anything with it, but you can try if you'd like to.
Right. And I would say, like, sure, if you're working in polling place, which some of you are, I know, and I appreciate your work, have that handout, available, and you know it, so you might not need it. But here in some of the rural areas, there's maybe 70 voters in a day. I recognize that some folks don't have the ability to stay in the polls, especially if you have to stand outside. So I think sharing it on
vote, man.
email on social is going to have the broadest impact. So I'm going to turn it over to Everett to talk a little bit about these posts.
Sure. So, Josie, and so when you're reading these and you see these, I encourage you to take what we wrote or what I wrote and change them to fit your voice, to fit your style. But we created 3 posts that you could, in theory, paste or copy the text, put it in your post, and then obviously include the link in social media. And then, as you all know, the links populate automatically, right? So I gave you the URLs for that purpose. But the first post, I would see you sending these out in this order or sharing these in these order. First would be about the election timeline. You could even do that tonight or do it Thursday, Friday, whenever you want to do it. I would do that one first, and it shares the election timeline that Josie talked about today. The second one is about mail-in ballots and talking about when the deadline is to request your ballot and get it and then return it and all of that. And the link there is a video that literally tells people what to do with their mail-in ballot to send it back. And these videos are on vote.pa.gov, right? They are their official videos. We went and found them, and so that we're actually using what they recommend and what they suggest in their guidance. The last one is Josie and I really did kind of hem and haw about putting this one out there because we don't want people to have to file complaints. But the reality is, if there are issues, people need to know how to file those complaints. So there is direct links to getting that done and sharing that information out. So it's basically saying, if you have a problem, this is how your voice can be heard to get something done.
Yep. Thank you, Ev. And so, no, these are not like the ones and onlys. If you, as Everett said, want to change them, add stuff, make it more applicable to your area, that is
sound like Melanie.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
So make it melanized. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Make it sound like James.
Right.
Whatever.
Please do that. Add images, whatever works for you, but we wanted it to be as easy as possible. So the very fundamental piece is to share 3 posts about voter accessibility between now and Tuesday. I know Melanie's hand is up, but I don't know what's in the chat or anything else.
Let me see. Yeah, sorry, Joes.
You're fine. So Melanie, go ahead. I saw it. Said
Okay,
you
I
raised
know.
your
I
hand.
know. We in Harrisburg, we mentioned like what happens if we end up in the emergency room. There's a way to get a
Yes.
ballot there.
Yeah.
Can we or can you do like a shut up script about like a 4th post about hey, you shut up, end up in the hospital that day,
Yeah.
how to get a ballot type deal, or otherwise incapacitated.
So yes.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if it's Monica and Everett who maybe should draft something up.
Oh, it doesn't have to be
or
you specifically. I meant
Sandra.
just
Somewhere. Okay, yeah, so no, Sandra and Shelby had the direct, engagement, we'll say, on that.
Experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can I just say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was about to ask you guys the same question because here's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
She found herself unexpectedly in the emergency room and I know we're probably supposed to be nonpartisan, but this was the ballot. It was either the primary or the general election that determined Donald Trump leaving. And so she was extra motivated to vote. Normally when she's in the emergency room, she's not capable of doing anything, but that was really very much on her mind. So I called a friend of mine who's local to the area and knows a lot about voting. He's been on like the committee for his, what do they call it? The district or whatever, forever. And I just let him take that over. And it was actually kind of complicated. Somebody had to go down to somewhere and get a ballot to bring to her from a specific location that was not her polling place. And then she had to fill it out and then it had to be driven back to Arnold, were you the one who drove her ballot back to that place okay. So it was a tiny bit complicated. Enough to the point where I'm gonna probably call my friend and say, how did we do that? What did we do? Because I don't remember. Because I don't want to co-op the time, but it's almost over. So I did want to ask you guys for help. I have been asked to write a guest blog on a disability Facebook page that has almost 8,000 people on it who are the vast majority Philly metro area. And I, of course, immediately said yes, but I really am going to need support. So if anybody wants to help support me with that, I'd really appreciate it because I'm going to need to ask a lot of questions. And so anybody who wants to be a subject matter expert for me, I'd really appreciate doing that.
Okay.
And I think, do we have other questions? Is there anyone Josie, could you or Everett stay on a few minutes after it's over? Okay.
So
there were questions about what hashtags to use when posting.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I like CryptoVote, but I would also encourage you to hashtag Trail.
Yeah, do you think Trail PA is my thought?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, because Trail, there's so many things that are Trail. So Trail PA, hashtag Trail PA. And Kristen, good call on bringing that up. We did not put that in here. Maybe ever if you can add that to the
add what? I don't know what
hashtag Trail PA and hashtag CryptoVote.
Add them where?
To the post. And yeah, I'll add them here too. But didn't you make a Google Doc, or was it just Microsoft?
It's a Word doc, but I can do that.
The other thing is for those of you who may be interested in helping Sandra with her post. I'm going to ask Sandra after this call. We'll talk about sending an email to the folks from the Philadelphia region. And if anyone's interested, please reply to her directly. I am going to be out of town. What is a
and
listserv?
yeah,
Listservs
and
are
Dominique
email
answered that
lists.
already.
Oh,
Dominique
thank you, Dominique.
Yeah.
Um,
So
Appreciate
and
that.
if you don't want to post politically on your social media, I would strongly encourage you to send an email out to people that you know on your email list that need to know this information.
Yeah.
Because I know that some people are strange about that, but the way that I look at this is that we are helping people exercise their right as an American. I don't know if what
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
we're not talking about politics. We're talking about your
right,
responsibility as a
ability
citizen.
or your privilege as a citizen of this country to vote and do.
Okay, so we have to
Yeah.
wrap up. And the other point is you could also put it directly in an email or a group that if there's a disability group that you're involved with on any social media platform, that's fine. If you decide to send it by email, that is fine. The other optional one that I offered for $5 was to contact your election office. You can find it at this email address. Find your county and then email or call them and say who you are, you're from Trail, but you're, the self-advocate, you wanted to share any, accessibility information. Let us know how that goes. We've never done work like this. And so, just as Everett said, we don't know if they'll be like, yeah, we'd love to know more, or if they'll be like, nope, we have too much to do. We're meeting the law, the end.
And Dominique just said that she sent you a direct message.
Okay. Okay. Please, guys, continue to reach out to candidates and legislators about lunch and learn and surveys. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. So that was my last slide. Any comments or questions? Ben, I saw your notes. I have no idea what happened. I'm sorry. I will send you what you've missed, and it's my fault totally. I'm sorry.
Sandra, I'll proofread stuff since I'm not in the Philly area.
My excuse me. My point is, like, she's got it's a nationwide organization, but 90% of the people that follow it are in Pennsylvania, and the vast majority of them are in Philly Metro. I think it's, I should focus on statewide information, not just Philly information. But I mean, it's going to be, it's a huge privilege and honor and a great opportunity to get the word out to a larger audience. So, all of her followers are people with disabilities or people who have children with disabilities, and either way, they have a huge stake in voting. So, when I said, she said, well, anybody volunteer to write a guest post, and I said, do you need something on voting? Being that that's the big thing that we're sort of pushing. And she said, oh, hell yes. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, that's great. Will it be one part? Will it be two part? Can you get it to me by October for blah, 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 blah. And I went, oh, crap. So anyone who's willing to pitch in with this, that would be great. Dominique, I saw your thing. Monica, I saw your thing. So thank you very much. Everett and Josie, can I bend your ear also?
Yes. I want to wrap this up, and then I can stay on for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. I do have
Sandra,
one.
really quick, if you need me, just let me know.
I will always need you.
Yes.
I will always.
If you want me to help you with anything, like I said, I'm always here available.
She wants your help, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Well, Nyota is like our resident expert on semantics and all things language.
That's right.
How we're doing these things.
You're upselling me really well tonight. Thank you. You all are rock stars. I'm just listening. I feel like I've done my part. You all don't need me as a professional newser anymore.
No, that's not true at all. Final
Shauna asked a question in chat.
Yes. Oh shoot.
About digital flyers and posters.
I'm getting there.
Can we make digital posters or flyers?
Heck
And
yes.
James wants to know, how do we let you know that it's all complete?
So at the very end, so I mean, that's honestly by like a week and a half from now, maybe 2 weeks from tonight, I will send you a final survey. Okay. I already sent you guys one survey. I appreciate you guys filled it out. I will send you one final survey and it will ask your name. It will ask you final thoughts about, trail, what you learned, and then it will ask you, what have you done? Okay. I am relying on the honor system here because you all are self-advocates. I trust all of you. So please, just fill that out. And then once I get that back, then I will go back and write the checks and send them to you. As for digital posters, I would love digital posters. And if that means that you need some financial support or guidance to do that, we are happy to do that. I do not have hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but if you're able to make a flyer or two, let me know and I can see what I can scrounge up to make sure you're compensated properly. And if you're able to do the optional test, super. Like, I think that's really great. I just said that some folks just are in over their years, and I understand that because I am too. Okay. Anything else
Do you
before we wrap
want
up?
me to talk about the second lunch and learn in like 30 seconds or less?
Both of them. Go ahead and talk about both of them real quick.
Sure. So we met earlier before this call to talk about the lunch and learn that's going to happen I guess in 2 days. And some people have agreed to be a part of that with us. It's really going to focus on highlighting the info sheets that we created and letting people know what issues really matter to our community. So we'll be talking a little bit about what trail is, what we've been doing, about the importance of appropriate language when dealing with the disability community, and then really highlighting, like I said, those 8 issue info sheets that we have, and then kind of letting them go after 20 minutes of great times. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our legislative history as the disability community, to let them know that we have done things previously and that we are not done advocating for the rights of people with disabilities, but that we have a history, that we want to be voting, and that we will be coming to people with ideas to further the rights of people with disabilities. The second lunch and learn on the 13th is a little bit more, I would say, has a more narrow focus on helping campaigns create accessible materials. So helping them understand why it's important to create screen reader friendly documents, and then giving them tips and tricks about how to actually do that. And also how to add appropriate image descriptions and alt text to their images. The importance of good color contrast when creating and doing things on their website and publications, and really thinking about proper spacing and talking about readability.
So all things access.
Yes. So we're talking like a little bit more than just your typical like help me be able to read this, and really giving them tangible things they'll be able to do in their future.
Right. So number 1, please continue to share for both this week and next. It's the same registration link. So if they've registered or you have registered for one, you're good to go for both. And I will be after this lunch and learn, Everett and Iota will be in charge, but he will have the PowerPoint. He will be running the slides and the Zoom for the lunch and learn. So if you would like to present, please let us know.
I think I know that Mel wants to help. I know that. And I think Bonita expressed some interest, but If you do, we'll probably do the same prep like we did today. Okay. A little early, do that so you know what we're doing and kind of go with that. Okay.
Yep. Thank you all so very much. If you have questions, if you're Sandra, please stay on. Everyone else.
And I think Dom wanted to stay on too.
Please. Anyone who just misses us immensely, you can stay on as well. That's fine. So I'll talk to you all later. Thank you
Have
all
a
for
good
everything.
Can
Thanks,
I
Josie. Have a
ask
safe
a
trip.
question?
Thank you.
Enjoy Florida.
Great to
dude.
see everyone.
Well, I'm gonna talk to everyone before that. So
Nyota,
bye.
Yes.
Nyota, can you email me your phone number?
Here, I'll put it right here again.
All
Hold
right.
on, let me put it in the chat. Hold on. Is it okay if I put it in the chat?
That is your call.
No, I'm saying Sandra, or do you still?
Oh
want me
yeah,
to-
no, I can do that.
Okay. No, it doesn't matter. Here, I'll also put my email too. Because I know how we all are with information. It gets lost
Yeah.
and we're all moving and grooving.
Yeah. Okay. So how can I best support you, Sandra?
Okay, so I have several items here. Okay, so first of all, can I share a letter that I got on the screen somehow? An
Yeah.
email I got as a response?
Yeah. So
How do I do that?
okay. So at the bottom of the screen where you see all of us, there should be like ellipses, like 3 dots, and it says more.
I have a share screen button.
Other than that, that's all you need then.
Okay. All right. So, all right, you don't need to see